Is your mic working?
Okay. I think white or red? Yeah. Red. Okay, good evening. It's March 13th, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. We'll start with the flag salute. So board agenda approval is our first item, and before we get to that, I just want to say a couple things. As you know, Craig's not here tonight, and Stacy is acting as our superintendent today, so thank you, Stacy. And unfortunately, Renee couldn't be here either, so Stacy is also acting as Renee, as is Jeff, Leslie, and Chris. And for the members of the public, we have some iPads here on the table. If you want to follow the agenda, you can just open up the laptop. And Jeff, is it already set to the page? And you could see the agenda.
It is set to the page.
Thank you. And then you'll be able to follow the agenda for tonight. And then one more thing we're going to start today, but also try to do going forward is Renee mentioned that right when our meetings are over, and I'm totally guilty of this too, but we kind of just disperse, especially if we're going to closed session and she needs our signature on things. So we're going to try a protocol where we go to her and just line up there and wait to sign every time. And then today she gave it to me to take care of. I'm acting as Renee too today. So if you guys can come to me, ladies can come to me as soon as the meeting's over and sign this, that would be really helpful. Okay, so board agenda. Does everyone, anyone have any changes to the board agenda? Okay, then we'll keep the agenda as is. Employee of the month. Okay, so our employee of the month is Greg Machado. Are you here? But yes, can you please come up to the front? Yeah, you have to go stand there, yeah. So Greg, this is how this works. I'm going to read some nice things that were said about you from your people at your school, and then anybody else will have the opportunity to come say something if they'd like to. And then you will have the opportunity to introduce anyone if you'd like to, and then we have a couple of gifts for you.
Okay,
So
thank you.
prepare to be embarrassed.
This is gonna be a roast?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So Jessica Williams, Kennedy School Counselor, wrote the following in her nomination of Greg Machado as the district's classified employee of the month. Greg not only does his job exceedingly well, being dependable, thorough, and timely, but he is also a wonderful person to work with. Greg is friendly to everyone, staff and students alike. He has a mischievous sense of humor, and he is smiling most of the time. Greg goes above and beyond his job. He gets to know the students and will let me, school counselor, know if he's worried about any of them, so I can check in on them. He also participates in our school spirit events, such as pep rallies, web socials, and more. He has also added to our school community by coaching our track team. Can you picture that we get all of this with our wonderful, caring, hardworking custodian? We are so lucky to have Greg Machado. He is an integral part of the Kennedy community. Is there anyone else who'd like to say anything today? Okay. Yeah, you do.
Your turn to roast me, come on.
So I'm Teresa Posas, assistant principal at Kennedy. And I just want to say, I mean, everything that Jessica mentioned, he does go, beyond. He is family. It truly is. You get a sense of that with Greg, and he's always smiling, always willing to help. He gets to know our students, so you could see that he truly does care about Kennedy as, our community. It's not going in and out, but to see him interact with our students, with our teachers, just anyone on campus. He's always making sure that, safety for all is the priority. So if he sees anything, it's, brought to our attention right away. And the same thing for us. If we see anything that needs immediate attention, he's always there willing to help. And if not, he's always guiding us. And, if to go another route if necessary, if we don't have, the resources on site. So, and aside from that, at the end of the school year, he makes a barbecue. We all look forward to that. And, he does that, and, he takes care of us. So, I'm hoping that we're all also taking care of him, and this is well-deserved. And I want you to know that this is how we feel every single day, not just this once a month award, but that every single day, that's how we, feel towards you, and we truly, truly appreciate everything that you do for us. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. We have anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Oh, another roaster.
Yeah, my name's Larry Blair. I'm a PE teacher and also the athletic director at Kennedy. Not only does Greg coach track, like they mentioned, he also coaches cross country, and it's very difficult to get teachers to come out and coach nowadays. So to have someone on our faculty that knows all the kids, who's willing to stay beyond his workday and coach for us is huge. But he also supports the athletic team in a lot of different ways. He'll go into the gym at lunchtime and mop the floor for the basketball teams and the volleyball teams. I'm the wrestling coach at Kennedy. I've been forever, and he always is willing to come in and disinfect our mat before we have matches so no one gets any skin diseases. So he really supports the school like all day at all times, and he's a great asset for the athletic department. And the lunch in Mays, it's killer. Tacos and carnitas, and it's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg, would you like to introduce anyone tonight, or are you?
No.
Okay.
just whoever's here for me, thank you guys for showing up. Appreciate it. And those that aren't here, I understand sometimes it's hard to get back over here and travel, but I appreciate everybody and all of Kennedy, even everybody from the district. I know a lot of people in the district, and I think they're awesome and just love it here. It's really great.
Thank you so much. So stay right there because I have something for you. Thank you so much for everything that you do.
Oh,
Really.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Would you? What? Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. That's okay. That's my fault. Thank you. Okay. So. Okay, do we have any comments from employee
have 7.
organizations? No, employee organizations?
I do not believe Kai's
Okay.
here tonight.
Okay.
I'm here for Kai. He just said sit and listen.
Okay. I was like, 7? We don't have 7 employee organizations. Okay. Okay. So 7 public comments?
Yes.
Okay. So just to go over the guidelines of public comments, we're going to listen to the public comments. These are items that are not on the agenda, so the board will not be responding to the items under the Brown Act, but we will be listening very closely. So, and if I mispronounce your name, please correct it when you come up. My apologies in advance. Okay, and oh, by the way, each person has 3 minutes. And who is, okay, Chris? And is it going to beep, or are you going to give him a sign?
I'll tell you in a second.
Okay, we'll see. It'll beep? Okay, and so, so the first person we have is Jeannie Olson. And if the next person wants to be ready, we have Chris Nutter second.
A lot of what I had to say, most of what I had to say was directed at Dr. Baker, and it's unfortunate he's not here, so I'm going to pass and I'll come back.
Thank you. Chris Nutter? Okay. and we'll see him next time. The next one is Patricia Leader. And then after Patricia, we're going to hear from Wayne Young if they're here. Okay, 3 minutes.
Thank you. I would echo the comments from my colleague from Collins, and I came to address Dr. Baker, and since he's not here, then I plan to come back.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming to the board meeting, and then another option is always to email Dr. Baker and the board. So,
Same thing. I'm from Collins, and we had planned on speaking with Dr. Baker, but since he's not here today, we'll come back another time.
sorry. Okay. So the next Stacy is here. Okay, so Debbie Calkiny.
I'm gonna do the same thing.
Okay.
We're meeting to address Dr. Baker, who's not here, so we'll come back.
Okay, thank you. Kim Johnson.
Also from Collins, I'm gonna hold off and wait because I'd rather talk to him and you all at the same time.
And Beth Wichman? Wickman.
Same thing, I need to address Dr. Baker, so I'll come back in another time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that was all we had. I think, do I have to do anything different? Okay, thank you, Collins, for coming. And we will see you again. Okay, so we're moving on to the consent items. And I would like to actually pull the minutes for,
Which one?
I forgot which one I wanted to pull. We'll just pull both because there's a correction. So do I have a motion?
I move.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so can I have a motion for the other consent items?
So I move that we approve consent items 4.1 through 4.5.
Can I have a second?
I second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, oh, shoot, who was taking the notes? Okay, did you get it for who motioned and who seconded on both of those?
Don't forget to ask for opposed. You have to ask
Yes,
for
yes, yes, yes. Any opposed on the consent? Okay, so you got it? Okay. So the next item is action item. And per the parliamentary procedures we're trying to follow, for action items, we're going to ask for a motion and then a second.
Aren't we going to do the minutes?
The what?
Aren't we going to bring the minutes back?
Oh, no, we're going to bring that back next time.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. Yeah, because they have to make some corrections and Renee's not here. Sorry. So do we need to do that differently? We just pulled them and then we're going to bring them back, right? Okay.
Next time.
Yeah.
I just thought we were going to do it,
No,
discuss
yeah.
them after. Okay.
Okay, so for the action item, we'll take a motion and then a second, and then call for future discussion. So I know that's different than what we used to do before Dr. Baker, but since we're following the new parliamentary procedures, we can do that. So for the positive certification of the 2017-18 second interim financial report, do I have a motion?
I move.
Do I-
6.1.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay. Do we have any further discussion? Okay.
I just have a little clarification.
Yeah. And
Are we going to have a presentation?
yeah, so
there
since
will
we need a
be-
clarification, then Chris, could you present
Yeah.
the, what you have, or do you have something? Thank you. No more comments, right? No more, okay.
Right, good evening. Before you tonight is the second interim budget report that we will ask you to approve in a little bit, but maybe just a quick presentation, and if there's some clarifying questions, I'd be more than happy to answer anything. But let me just start off really quick. Again, here we are in the process right now. So as we're wrapping up the 2017-18 year, as one of the requirements every year, we are to bring forward to the board and also submit to the county our self-certification of our fiscal solvency. We're bringing to you tonight a positive certification. A positive certification just means that we're able to meet all of our financial obligations, not just in the current year as well as the 2 out years, and that's really the most important thing. I think as a school board, the board understands that it is fiscally solvent, it meets this criteria, and if for any reason the district is showing any indication that it's in any kind of financial distress, that's the purpose of when you start looking at the different levels of certification. So I'm happy to present to you tonight that we're able to meet our financial obligations. So really just real brief tonight, just, not a lot has changed since December. If you recall, back in December, we asked you to approve the first interim report, and so tonight is just a couple things I'm showing up on the board as far as changes since then. Just like anything else, the budget throughout the year is a fluid document. Things change. Assumptions change as well. So tonight, basically, I'm showing you here just some of the changes with both the revenue and the expenditures, just like with a budget. If we include additional revenue to the budget, most of the time we will increase the expenditure side of the budget to address it. So literally, the revenue changes since December, roughly about $2.2 million of additional revenue. Two major ones I want to point out is one, we did receive another installment of the state's Prop 39 clean energy grant money. So that generated about almost another $900,000 of funding for us to allow us and Kevin and the bond program to continue looking at retrofitting, lighting, and controls so that we can lower our energy footprint. And the other large item on here is just in the area of local revenue donations. Just to provide a little context for the board, staff and I have been talking about how we've been estimating our revenue projections, and in one of the areas around donations is that it really is somewhat hard to anticipate what our community, what our parents are going to per se donate to the district. So and I support the staff's position on how we budget and account for the donations in the district's budget. And so what we did in December was basically we budgeted what we knew at that time, what we actually received as far as donations as of that point in time. And so what's reflecting here is actually additional donation money that we've received since December. So roughly about $1.5 million of additional revenue that has come into the district's budget since January. So I hope I'm making it clear for the board is that this is just an assumption that we make, is that since we don't know how much donation money we're going to get at the end of the year, we're trying to be very conservative and increase the budget and make adjustments to the budget as we go through the year. So roughly, again, $2.2 million of additional revenue. Little changes with some of the categorical funding, but nothing major. And then on the other side of the equation is the expenditure side of the budget, and most of the $1.3 million of additional expenditures were primarily due to the additional donation funds, because we had to budget those dollars in the school's budgets. And then probably the most important thing is the multi-year. So we've updated the multi-year based on the information I shared with you, I think back at the second meeting in January, as far as the budget assumptions that the governor is proposing. Also included in this assumption right now is the staffing reductions, the ongoing reductions that we had brought to the board for consideration and approval at our last board meeting. Roughly, if you see the footnote here, we had identified about $5.3, almost $5.4 million of total staffing reductions to the general fund. But as we're planning to bring back some of those positions in other forms, we have accounted for many of the add backs. And so when you take into account the add backs, it roughly calculates out to a net personnel savings of about $1.5, $1.6 million. That number is subject to change as we continue to look at the reorganization happening in instruction, as well as looking at the district as a whole. And one other additional footnote I put there is that we also made some adjustments to our yearly allocation for instructional materials. We've reduced that down by about $155,000 on an ongoing basis. So those two elements here are taken into now the multi-year's budget assumptions, and it's basically changed what was originally our focus here as far as the level of deficit spending. So as you recall, for 18-19, because the LCFF funding gap now has been completely eliminated, that additional funding plus the savings, these ongoing savings, literally turned that number right side up now. So we're not showing a level of deficit spending starting in 18-19. Something else to also note too is it's natural just to obviously look to the bottom and see what that bottom number is. So when you take into account next year's budget and the assumptions, we're showing that we're not deficit spending. We're showing that we meet all of our legally reserved requirements for the categorical programs. We are showing both our mandated 3% reserve as well as our additional 3% board reserve. And on top of that, we are still showing about $12 million of one-time dollars carryover money that we've been accumulating from the last several years. And we're showing right now about $8.2 million of one-time dollars that we're not allocating. And I do want to point out most of that $8.2 million is next year's proposed $5.2 million of one-time revenue that we're what the governor is proposing in his budget. So I just want to make sure I point out a couple of those key factors, because those large dollar amounts will show up somewhere on our multi here, but we've not allocated those dollars, but obviously it's subject to the adopted budget, including those in those assumptions. But last thing I want to say is basically, so with all of the things that we've been talking about, it's changed our position considerably as far as where we were going as far as deficit spending. But I do want to caution the board is that we still have the same other issues that we're dealing with. We're still dealing with the decline of enrollment. We're still dealing with the pension cost increases. All of those assumptions are built in here, and so we have to be just mindful of that. Now that we are at 100% funded at LCFF, our funding from this point going forward will be basically what we get in the form of COLA. And it's like back into the old days when the district had revenue limits, and before LCFF, if the state said you got a 2% COLA, you got a 2% COLA. So it's a little bit easier now to predict what the out-year revenue assumptions are going to be. But unfortunately, the COLA that we get may maybe not be enough to cover those PERS and STRS increases when the PERS and STRS increase are continuing to increase considerably. I'm not going to go into these slides. You've seen them before. It's just really more for some foundational information if you have any questions. And last, just where are we right now? What do we know? And as I said, where our structural deficit has essentially gone away based on those a set of assumptions. But I do want to say is that this is all, again, subject to the state adopting a budget, and if they're going to adopt the budget based on the governor's current set of assumptions. We know that between now and May, we will get more updated information. Sometimes the assumptions do change as part of the governor's May revise. So we'll know when we get a little bit closer. In our situation, because we adopt our budget early in June, and we have to present to you the preliminary budget in May, we're going to just, work on that until the last minute and update our budget based on whatever we hear as part of the May revise. One last piece again, where our budget is assuming some amount of one-time funding. I think the governor will continue that, obviously, while he's still in office. But it's hard to predict whether or not the one-time funds will be an ongoing source of revenue. And I do want to caution us, we are always still worried that, there's the potential for the next downturn or the next slowdown. So as a CBO for the district, I just want to make sure that we understand that those are some of the economic factors too. And right now, basically, we're kind of waiting and seeing. We're going to see what comes up as a result of the May revise. So that's all I had to.
Okay, thank you for the presentation, and thanks to Dorothy and the team for your hard work on this. Is there any further discussion on this item?
So this projection includes the potential enrollment decline, and but the assumption doesn't include our potential revenue from after school or preschool, but includes the investment that we are putting in for those programs.
Thank you for the
Go ahead.
question. So the first question about staffing and enrollment. So our budget is based on Tom Williams's decline of enrollment and the reduction of classroom staffing in alignment with the changes with enrollment. In regards to the preschool and daycare enterprise program, I told Craig that I am going to estimate a little bit of revenue, because we shared with the board that we were looking at, what year 1 looks like, what year 3 looks like, and what year 5 looks like. Year 5 is outside of the range of our multi-year, but our year 3 projection, or the year 3 plan that we shared with you, I've built that in here. I think we had estimated that we could be generating about $240-something thousand of additional revenue, so I've built that in there.
Oh, so the conservative estimate you presented is included?
Is just correct.
Yeah. And then another question is regarding the cost of iPad or technology-related expenses. I think we approved $1 million for buying new iPads. I don't remember how many. Does this include new iPads for next year, or are we?
No, this does not include any additional purchases of any other devices other than what was purchased by the district this year. The payment on that was spread out over a period of time, but this does not include any other large purchases like that.
So the payment for that $1 million is spread out over 4 years.
Correct.
Right? So in case we need to replace some old iPads for next year, that would be in addition for this budget, right? We might need $1 million.
I think if you're asking if there are any additional devices the district has a need to purchase, it's beyond what's part of these assumptions, and the answer is yes.
Do you have an estimate on how much we might need to spend for next year?
I think, is that on topic
that,
of anything that is not already approved by the board is not in this budget, right? So if we're going to talk about something later, that'll be added, but I don't think if that topic is not on the agenda right now.
I have a couple of questions if you're done.
Yeah.
Okay, the clean energy money that is coming back to us, the $900,000, is that earmarked to be spent only on energy things, or does it just go into the general fund?
It's a restricted categorical. It can only be spent on specific energy saving measures such as lighting retrofits, energy management systems. The board had approved a Prop 39 expenditure plan. So it's just this additional funds just allows us to do more of those things on the list. It's not in any way totally unrestricted that we could use it for anything, but it's really more specifically to address, again, lighting and those types of things.
Okay, good. And this is just a comment. I just want to thank you for preserving my favorite reserve. That's great. You and the staff have done a great job with that. Thank you. I know that there are pots of money in various departments that are carryover maybe, or not spent for whatever reason. It probably amounts to a significant amount. Is that money included in this budget? Does it stay with the schools or the departments? How does that reflect in our budget?
It's a good question. Let me pull this up real quick again, so you can. I want to just point a couple things out. I apologize. Okay, Phyllis, so your question is in regards to carryover, whether it be department carryovers or even school carryovers. So there are some programs that we do allow carryover, some programs by law where we have to provide a carryover. But for the most part, a lot of the department budgets, we don't allow for carryover, so whatever is unspent goes to the bottom line. So most of the money that we kind of show in this one line down here, fund balance reserves here, account for a lot of those earmarked carryover, like slip dollars, instructional material money dollars that we've saved. And so those dollars will show there. But obviously what we're showing you here, say in the 17-18 fiscal year, we're assuming right now that everyone spends everything that's in their department budgets. And I've said before is that we don't spend every penny. We have to make an assumption at this middle point in the year that if we were to end the year and everyone spent their dollars, we have to account for it. But we know that the final expenditures for the year will not be that number because we'll have money that goes unspent. So those unspent dollars, we don't earmark, and we don't say next year those departments have that additional money to spend. It just goes back down to the bottom line, and that goes into basically the fund balance reserve, that into any amount that's over that 6%.
So is that true with the schools as well as the departments?
So the schools, we give them a lot more latitude. We allow them to carry over funds. And so all of their donation money, they carry over every penny. There's slip dollars. We shared with the board last year that we were wanting to make sure that they spent the money on this year's kids. So we put a limitation on how much they can carry over. So they can carry over up to 15% of the slip dollars. There are other site discretionary budgets. We don't put a limit on how much they can carry over, so they can carry over whatever they don't spend. So for the most part, all the school sites, they have the ability to carry over pretty much everything that they have, with the exception of slip.
Okay, and I just have one more question, sorry for monopolizing.
It's okay.
There's quite a bit of one-time money in this budget as the years go by. Is there a timeline on that one-time money, or can we carry it over forever, or do you have to, how does that work?
So the one-time dollars that we've received the last couple of years, and even the $5.3 million of one-time funding, should we get it next year, there aren't any time limitations. It's, at our discretion. The only one-time funds that had any kind of time limitations that we received in the past have been the Common Core implementation funds, as well as the educator effectiveness dollars. So those were a little bit more specific, but the one-time funds that we have right now on hand in the bank, there aren't any time limitations.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
I just have one quick question. So I learned from CACBA that even though we submit the positive certification, the county still need to review the report and then send a confirmation letter back to the district. So I wonder who received that later? Is the board president or superintendent?
I believe the letters come addressed to both the superintendent and the board president. So we would have gotten one for first interim. And then, once we submit second interim to the county, they would do the same. They would generate another letter confirming our positive certification position.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Have a question?
No, I was going to say any further discussion, so go ahead.
So, on the previous chart of the expenditure change, one item is services and operation costs, addition funding from clean energy grant. There is an increase of $1.37 million. But the total is 1.35. I guess first I'm curious what we are spending on this extra for the clean energy. It seems it's nice we got all the extra funding from clean energy, about 0.9 million, but we are spending it away already. So what are we spending it on? Just curious.
Good question. Right now, I think what my staff has done is we've just put the money into the budget as though we were going to spend it. I mean, the fact that we have $900,000 more money to spend in there doesn't mean that we have our plan how to spend it right now. With the clean energy, actually the clean energy money, I think similar to what Phyllis was asking about is these funds have a time limit. So these funds have to be spent by a certain amount of time. So I think what my staff has done is that additional money that we received, they went ahead and put it in the budget, but it's very likely, very, very likely that by the end of our year, by June 30th, we'll probably have not spent a large, if not all of that at all. And so that money will become a carryover. That money will become part of the reserve, where it says restricted reserve or legally restricted reserve balance. So that $900,000 of additional clean energy money, we're probably not going to spend much of it, if anything, between now and June 30th. It'll fall to that until we actually do spend it.
I don't know if this is too detailed. We got 900,000, but how come we are adding a 1.3 million expenditure?
Some of that $1.3 million expenditures is not only clean energy grants, it's some of the local donation. So the local donations, the money that the schools got, some of that money went into that budget line item, like field trips and assemblies. All of that additional money gets accounted for there.
Okay, any further discussion? So we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay, so motion passes. Jeff, 4 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 absent. Anjali. Okay, so the next item is board and superintendent activity. You want to start with Liang, or does anyone have anything?
I attended a science fair at McAuliffe, and yeah, it was great that this is a science fair that they are doing as part of their curriculum. So it's not in addition that's done outside of a school day. Every kid has a presentation to present. So it was nice to visit the school. The whole school is doing a science fair. And then I think Lincoln will be doing a science fair. I'm hoping to visit next week. Yeah.
It is coming to participate.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's very...
Yeah, and then Montclair will have a science fair next week too. I'm looking forward to visit. Yeah.
Phyllis?
Yes.
Kristen?
So recently I attend the PTA Reflection Award. So it's about like 100 kids get award. They have 6 categories. And so we are able to see what our kids done. And those kids will further on picked by the county and then maybe go further to the nation. So I'm very excited about this. Really appreciate we have that opportunity and continue this event.
Good, thank you. Kristen and I also attended the CEEF Gala, which was a great, really fun event at the new venue. And Craig presented the Teachers of the Year, and it was a good night. So, do you have anything from the superintendent's office? Okay. So next, we'll move on to agenda setting, future agenda items. And Leanne, since you were mentioning like future technology expenditures, I said that wasn't really on our budget, but we can bring that back with Craig and Kristen and I in agenda setting and see if there's a future time we might talk about that, or he can send a memo, but we can follow up on that.
Yeah. And
Any other?
I think when I mentioned to you that Los Altos School Board, because I don't have kids in the school district right now. My kids are in high school, so I feel I don't really know what the parents or what's going on in schools. And so Los Altos School District, they have board members attending PTA meeting at the end, so that we can take turn go to each PTA meeting and then see if parents can chat. So I thought that might be a nice thing if some of us can choose to do. Do we want to discuss that in a future agenda? Just proposing an agenda.
Yeah,
item.
so it's just a
That-
proposal,
yeah.
right? Yeah, thank you. Okay. So anyone else have proposed future agenda items? Okay. So then, before we adjourn to closed session, are there any public comments on the closed session items?
There are not.
Okay. So then we are adjourning at,
So should we sign that first?
yeah, before we go to closed session.
Okay.
Yeah. So at 6:41, we're adjourning to closed session. Thank you.
So I have another idea on that. No.
We are recording.
Okay. So 6:53, we're back from closed session. In closed session, the board took action and voted unanimously on recommendation to non-reelect employment on one probationary to certificated employee, and 4 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 absent. And 6:54, we're adjourning the meeting. Thank you.